TKO Boxing with Sherry Abbasi, and today I'm joined by Mr. Egypt Brown from America at the moment. Egypt, as we were just saying, thank you very much for giving me some time tonight and jumping on the platform. How are you keeping at the moment? And good to finally speak to you, man.
Absolutely. Well, the last time I saw you, you were in the U.S. At the fights. I'm obviously not in such bad shape. I'm in the sun in Florida right now, so definitely enjoying the progress that we're making, and boxing is has some changes going on, which obviously we'll discuss. But there's a lot of optimism and things that we're a part of that I'm excited about.
Brilliant, Egypt. Obviously, like you just mentioned, we met at Spence Crawford just after the fight and had a brief conversation there. I'll be honest with you, at the time, I'd seen you on social media, but I wasn't sure what it is that you did. So can you just tell the people that are going to watch this interview, what does Egypt Brown do? So because on your Instagram, I see advisor, promoter, and in particular, the whole fight for mental health piece. Again, I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about it myself. So I'm actually very keen to understand what the whole process of that was and how that all came into being. So if you can just tell us a bit about what you do on a day-to-day in boxing, and also the fight for mental health. You can give a bit of detail on that, please.
Great question. So, for those of you who don't know, and even for yourself, the reason I have the label, and I'm not big on labels, but the reason why I'm labeled as an advisor is so that I can, promote fights, but also assist on a day-to-day basis with the fighters, whether it's getting appearances scheduled, whether it's working out any personal details, anything that may add or interfere with their actual fight business, etc. Is something I'm a part of. But I also expanded because of the work I've done with different legends and our stars of today. I've picked up clients from several different sectors. So NBA, NFL, mixed martial arts, and now government. And what really led me into the fight for mental health is I was working with many of our legends and guys of yesterday, and also our stars of today. And even in my interactions with them and with others, I wasn't really sure, to be honest, what mental health was. I did study psychology at the university. I was somewhat familiar with, psychotherapy, but I didn't understand what mental health was. And, the more situations that I was running into, I have a trust factor. So whatever information or whatever, sensitive details I discuss with one never goes to another. But yet I was seeing these reoccurring situations, whether it be substance abuse issues, whether it be issues with their family, economic issues, just an assortment of personal issues that were affecting their business and affecting our business. And so I started to look into it. I actually made a huge effort. I stayed up day and night until I could kind of understand, what was happening with these different individuals, male and female, stars, or just first responders, veterans, and just everyday people. And what I ran into was mental health. And so I started studying, the issue from the mental health perspective, as far as, what is mental health? How do you assist people with having the right mental health? Because people had a stigma about it at the time, and even my clients had a stigma as far as, they thought mental health meant you had like a mental crisis, or you're having some mental illness. But they didn't understand that mental health is just like being healthy in your physical situation. So I traveled the world. I traveled the nation. I went to different clinics. I went to different specialists, and I just played as a dummy. I said, show me what you do to help your clients, or your patients get better. And the more I became educated on it personally, I saw that there was a need that the different therapists and clinics were not able to meet. There was a need that maybe our government wasn't meeting, and so I stepped in and I created an organization immediately. We went on, and we're still on one of the greatest tours of our time, as far as getting fighters to speak on it after victories. Not just from a place of weakness, but from a position of strength. And it wasn't something that our networks, it wasn't something our industry, and it really wasn't something that I'll just say the money guys, our shareholders, they weren't necessarily interested and they weren't excited about diving into this. And to this day, I've partnered with the World Boxing Council, Mauricio Suleiman and the Suleiman family. They're having their great conference in Uzbekistan right now, which we wish them well. I've partnered with so many different athletes. I've probably crossed all the different sectors when it comes to government, and working with them on. We're writing resolutions right now, enhancing current legislation and adding more. Working with first responders as far as understanding the issue, and then how to, help law enforcement have a better understanding on mental health, and helping them deal with their own mental health issues, with dealing with some of the serious crisis that they see and that they're engaged with, and our veterans, and so forth, and just our general business owners, and people that just want to succeed, students, etc. So it started off as something of curiosity, and it turned into a passion and a purpose.
Wow. Okay, that was amazing. So, if I've misunderstood this, please just stop me and clarify for me. Is it a charitable sort of foundation and that type of movement, or
Great question already. No.
okay? Yeah, there you go. I wanted to
You're
clarify that.
meaning a 501c3, C3, C4s, things of this nature.
Mm.
One of the reasons why I did not create this as a charity is because, number one, I was not going to pander or beg anyone for revenue or for donations in order to take care of the problem. Matter of fact, I believed in this so much from the beginning and to this day that I've poured my own personal resources, and any deals that we make, anything that we do business wise, goes right back into this program. And so I believe that when you monetize off of the problem and off of the situation, you therefore become compromised. And that's one of the reasons why. I'm not going to say it's the only reason why it hasn't improved at times, or we haven't had progress, and why, in essence, some things are getting worse. It's because, whether it's some therapists or clinics, and we're not going to say all, but there's some that, as long as they have patients, they have revenue. So if they don't have people that are constantly, in need of help, or if they're not, in the same, I guess, scenario of just needing direct assistance and whatnot, then they don't have a revenue base and they don't have a client. So we've seen that there are different reasons, mostly financial and economic, why the issue has not been fixed. And I also didn't want people to ignore my calls. I mean, when you feel like someone's just calling you for a contribution or a
Yeah.
donation or something of this nature, it's like, in your mind that may not even be the reason they're calling, but you can pretty much assume that it has something to do with this. So in order to stay uncompromised, yes, it's harder. Yes, it's tougher. Yes, it takes a little longer to build it, but we have had far more progress in our organization than most that have been around for 30, 40 years.
Brilliant. And how long has the organization been up and running for, as of sort of now?
Just under 2 years. So it hasn't been a heck of a long time. It feels like it's been 20.
Yeah, with the amount of stress you must have with dealing with something like this and sort of trying to push it out there, it's definitely going to have its toll in its own way. And it's also a post-COVID business, essentially, isn't it? 2021 to now, so it's a different world to what we have been used to for so long. Things have changed in a lot of different ways, so there's a lot of different challenges for you as a new business to take on. But hats off to you for that, man. It's a big push in the right direction, because, as you said about mental health, so many people don't know what it is even now, and especially in the world of boxing, it's very much an untouched or taboo subject. The only person that we've really seen it in recent years has been sort of Tyson Fury's been an advocate for it, so to say, in England especially. And whenever he's had a
Yeah.
fight, he'll say a little bit about it, but it's not something that's really focused on. So what you're doing with your organization to make it more mainstream, to make it a mainstay, I think that is something we have to work on as a whole, not just obviously on the big stage, but across the board. Like you said, it should be for the average civilian and everything, because everyone has struggles, and it can impact you in every way, mentally, emotionally, physically. At the end of the day, if the mind isn't right, everything else can suffer from that as well. So what you're doing is brilliant, and I respect that massively. So I assumed that it would have been around longer than 2 years. I'm surprised to hear it's only a 2-year-old business. So like you said, just goes to show the amount of work you put into it. Because especially with your social media, I
Yeah.
see a lot of things you're posting as well. To say it's only 2 years old, you made a hell of a lot of progress so far. But like you said, this is just the beginning, hopefully, for yourselves. So congratulations, man. Very, very happy for you, bro.
Thank you so much. It's every time I see, I mean, as you guys see, even across the pond, as they say, every time I see a mass shooting, every time I see violence, on a massive level, every time I hear of, major violent crisis and the spikes, it's another bat signal, that I've got work to do, and it's just another reminder that it's just the same thing as our business is, with our fights and with our champions and with all of our different talents, etc. You have to forget about yesterday. Yesterday's success, I mean, you can hope for all these awards and certificates and achievements, and if you're doing things for that reason, you'll never find fulfillment. And I just find that, for myself, I mean, speaking of Tyson Fury, I mean, we are all ambassadors as well for the WBC, for mental health. And you have, individuals like Ryan Garcia that have spoken out on it. Danny Garcia has spoken out on it. Deontay Wilder, Senator Pacquiao, but since we escalated the progress of this, I've had President Trump speak on this, and so many other notable individuals around the world have come together to see that fight for mental health, and what it's going to end up doing. It's changing the dynamics of business on the economics, where all the different sectors, whether it's Wall Street trading, whether it's alcohol sales, the real estate industry, vehicles being, manufactured and sold, and so many other sectors. Now we're showing businesses that they can actually compete on a higher level and beat their competition by being invested in the mental health of the community and even their own staff. And then taking it a step further, we're bringing in and recruiting, therapists and providers that struggle to get the word out, because some of them are doing magnificent work. And if more people were aware of what they were doing, then, obviously they would see more clientele. So we're bringing them together and also making it easier for an individual to find that resource too, because sometimes it's like, when they're struggling and when they get that tunnel-eyed vision of stress, they don't necessarily know who to go to. Talking to somebody can help, but it's not always the answer if they're not a licensed professional. So, when we look at the traumas from whether it's NFL, CTE, or CTE is now being looked at in boxing, the head trauma, things of this nature, and all the different factors, it goes back to what I saw. And to answer your question again, Sherry, is that when I saw the legends, the guys that, I mean, to this day, we remember who they won, great battles, that they've had, and great moments in history that really paved the way for today. Well, they're forgotten. And when I see that they're slurring their speech, for example, right? And they're not quite speaking as well. when they're forgetting things or they're repeating the same things over and over again, right? Or when you have neurological issues that also are compounded and they're also functions of the brain where they're not, their motor skills are not quite the same, or they're not functioning right, physically. A lot of these things are a detriment to them and their families and their friends and their associates. So there's times where it can affect them because I saw that they would be speaking out negatively towards people in the media, right? Or they're not quite so fun to be around anymore with the peers. You're in the Hall of Fame, but people, your peers, your associates they're not, they talk about you. They're not excited when you come around and things of this nature. And so when I saw these different struggles, and then the worst part is drug addiction. Of course, no one wants to talk about these things, and we don't ever label people or put their business out. But the drug problem is something that's serious. Some of these guys, when they're going through their careers, they develop bad habits, and the reason why they have those bad habits is because they now have resources that are allowing them and able to help them feed those demons that maybe they already had, or maybe somebody got around them and kind of expanded the issue. So when they're no longer fighting those habits, now they're more costly. Now it's costing them homes. Now it's costing them relationships. It's costing them their health, things of this nature through time. So it can also hurt them in their legacy. So when they have appearances, or when people see them, they remember. And I'll just use a person like Mike Tyson, for example. You know, when you remember Mike Tyson, they're not thinking of Mike Tyson necessarily of today.
Yeah.
They're thinking of Iron Mike Tyson when he was the baddest man on the planet. And so when he shows up to an appearance, him or any other talent, they're expecting them to still be in that physical shape, right? I mean, you remember these guys are specimens. They're like superheroes. So when they don't see them in that shape, when they don't see them able to communicate properly, when they're a little moody, they're not so friendly, and they're just kind of going along with the moment, but not really bringing the right experience to the fans. It's a bad look for us all. It's a bad look for our promoters. It's a bad look for everything, and so this is why our fighters of today also respect what I'm doing, because they remember these guys as the ones they were watching when they were kids. You have stars, you have world leaders, you have royal families, you have legends of business, legends from your military, etc., that remember watching these guys at their highlight, at their prime. And so it's like a nostalgic situation where we want to keep them looking the part. We want to keep them feeling a certain way, and having pride and dignity, and purpose. So not to give you a long-winded answer, but I hope that answers your question.
No, that was wicked. Thank you. I think with these sort of things, the more detail, the better. So I wouldn't worry about having to apologize. That's good, because it sells what it is. It's not an easy thing to explain as well. There's so many different sides to it. It's multifaceted. It has to be explained as much as you can. So it's not a problem at all. And it sort of reminds me of a moment actually at the Bud after party at Top Golf when we were all there.
Hmm.
Tommy Hitman Hearns was there, and I remember obviously he has slowed down a bit now. His speech was already a bit off many years ago, so he was already showing some signs of deterioration. But just seeing him, I was a bit starstruck. So asked for a photo, shook his hand, but you can see he's shaking a little bit, which is expected after all these years. And then the speech is a bit mumbly, and there are after effects and the residual, the damage, like you said, the concussive shots he's taken over the years, and even just sparring, it does damage. This is the type of sport it is. And I did remember thinking, oh, it's a shame, but I didn't think for a second, oh, this guy's not a legend. I don't respect him. We don't love him. Those thoughts didn't cross my mind, but you do find yourself feeling a bit sorry for them. And it's not pity. It's just that, damn, you went through all that. You gave us so many memorable nights. You're forever going to be remembered. But what was the cost now? And was it worth it? And then, as much as for us, we can say, yeah, of course it was worth it. Only they can answer that, because they're legends and they're always going to live on. But how much has it impacted their day-to-day life and the quality of life? Because it could just be when they make these appearances, they're able to put on a brave face and able to mask it for 1 or 2 hours. How do we know how they struggle to get out of bed every morning, or what sort of life they live? We don't actually know. Do you get where I'm coming
Correct.
from? It's a very difficult
Correct.
thing to address, because I don't ever want to disrespect Tommy Hitman Hearns. I don't want to disrespect Antonio
Right.
Tarver, who I met there, because Antonio, on the face of it, is fine. He speaks well, he carries himself well, he's got a podcast, all these things, but he's been in the
Yeah.
sport for a long time. How do we know behind the scenes if he's ever had an issue in the morning waking up? Does he have numb hands, or can he feel his legs? You don't know what happens with these people, and they're not going to come out and say it to us on social media, because they're
No.
warriors. You put on a brave face. And the whole thing about being a man, the whole concept of bottling things up, not sharing your feelings, not discussing weakness, all these things, especially in a sport like boxing as well, where it's a physical sport. On the face of it, it's very much a physical sport. Muscles, six pack, punching, power, getting knocked down, getting back up. Again, it's very, very deep when you look at it and try to address it. There's so many things that tie in with mental health and that side of things, where people will bottle things up. And like you said, Ryan Garcia, when he fought Luke Campbell, this was January 2021, he fought him. That was the biggest win of his
Yes.
career to date. And then he spent over a year out of the ring, and he had mental problems, or mental health problems, sorry, he was saying, and he had a
Yeah.
lot of things he had to deal with. Again, there may have been rumors with what happened. We don't know. Only he knows, and only the people around him know. So we have to respect
Correct.
all fighters, whether they're fighters that are superstars or on the come up now, or whether they're legends that will forever be remembered. Everyone has got issues. Everyone has things they have to deal with. That's just part of being human. Um, Regardless of what ethnicity you are, what religion you follow, it doesn't matter. Everyone will have different ways of dealing with things. But like you said, fight for mental health, and your whole approach is trying to find something that works for everyone. So it isn't just going to work
Yeah.
for a white man. It's not just going to work for a black man or a brown man. It's going to work for everyone, men, women, children, and educating everyone and having those facilities in place. And I think when you were saying about trying to make this, bigger now, it's been around for 2 years. It's been a lot of hard work. I wanted to ask you, do you have workshops that you put together for people to attend, and sort of qualifications that you can help them with? Is that also a part of what you're looking to do moving forward to bring more professionals into it?
Great question. So, one of the things that one of the major things that we're bringing to the businesses that are aiding us in fighting for mental health is going to be the mindset experience. So, one thing is, you mentioned Antonio Tarver. He actually was very instrumental when we first started in pushing this to the next level. And we dedicated a lot of the success that we had. I mean, I wouldn't speak on his personal, but he's been very clear. There was a point where he wasn't in the best mental space, and things weren't quite so shiny for him. And what I have to commend about him is that he was honest about the situation, to the point where when they heard someone like him, he's got a lot of pride. He's a legend in his own right. He's never been one to just say I'm hurt, or I'm out, whatever. He's always been a fighter in every sense of the word. So when they saw that he was willing to push this with everything in him, it did make others recognize that. And maybe not everyone got involved at the time, or initially some people were kind of skeptical or kind of doubted how we would get to another level. But what we do on a daily basis is, I mean, I'm always educating people in government, leaders, things of this nature, on a daily basis. And then, like, every Friday, for example, in the evening, we do prayer and leadership, things of this nature. We are going to be adding, obviously, the mindset experience, and bringing the mindsets college athletes, pro athletes of every different sector, and our heroes of the military, to sharpen up the minds for people that are in the workforce, people that are in the sales force, people that are in media and other things, even our influencers. They're all getting involved in this. And to further add to your question and answer this thoroughly is, many of our influencers, I've spent time with some of the biggest influencers on the planet. Jake and Logan have obviously grown. I mean, there's many others, not quite the same level or dimension as the Paul brothers, or even someone like Austin McBroom and some of the others. But there's a whole community, and what we've even seen in the influencer culture is, with this IRL streaming and like the pressure of like always being live and always being seen 24 hours. We're gonna have influencers that are seeing a different way to influence, also speaking to these individuals and giving them tips. Like, we're not here to necessarily give like the sad story, and talk about the depressing side of things, because it can be really depressing if we just sit around all day and discuss, like, the ailments. What we're instead doing is we're providing solutions, and we're working together constantly on, even though it may be a different scenario, what are some of the common themes that a person can apply? So that's where we're taking this to the next level. Um, Obviously, workshops is a very popular way to get the message out. But again, I wanted to create a mountain of success for the fight for mental health and for mental health in general, and that is how we're now able to structure, by showing and demonstrating the success that we've had, even as an organization, and share success stories, share things that have worked, share things that even when we had trials and we had setbacks, how we were able to move forward and progress, and what our peoples that have been working with us all this time, what they've been able to do and see and live in their life. So a great question. Yes, that is definitely going to be, one part, whether it's at our gyms and our fitness organizations, partnering with, we actually have active gyms right now. One of them is actually in Michigan, in Holland, Michigan. We have a gym that we're running a pilot on, where we're going to be creating the mindset experience, A1 Fitness. But there's also other locations where we're going to start rolling this out more on a local level, and including adding the virtual situation where, yes, people can meet and greet with these stars and learn the mindset experience, from a platform kind of like this, your Zooms, etc. But also taking it to their house, taking it to their communities, and so forth.
Thank you, Egypt. That makes sense, because I was thinking, to get that message out there, you're going to have to start having those on a more like local community level as well, to sort of get that message out there. To ask you a question, sort of not away from Fight for Mental Health, but sort of about yourself. What were you doing before the whole Fight for Mental Health part of your life? What was your background? And if you don't mind just talking a bit about that side of things.
Absolutely. Well, I've had a ridiculous run. I have a lot to be thankful for. When I really started integrating with sports, I mean, I was always an athlete growing up, but I was also considered somewhat of a child prodigy in academics and learning and knowledge and things of this nature. I come from a military background. I've never been in the military, but I come from a military family, and they were involved in government and things of this nature. So they were very well rounded. So discipline was always a big part. And what initially started off is just like sports and academics. And I come from a very savage land, very savage region that, I mean, you have to kick ass, like, actually, like, on a daily basis, not just every once in a while. You have to be very firm on what you say and what you believe in. And you know, because of the reputation of where I'm from in Northern California, um, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's entertainment, anything you do, people know they take you very seriously. And it's because there's not a lot of options. So when people hear California, they think of Southern California. So you have and like LA, and I tell people this a lot, you know, they have everything in Southern California. You know, you have Hollywood, you have you know, several sports teams, you know, big markets in music and film and so forth. And so you mirror that on our side, we don't have any of this. You know, we don't have theme parks. You know, we don't have a whole lot of sports teams, but the ones we did have in the big platforms that we did have is very, very few and far between in Northern California. And so I got involved with those from an early age. I became a junior executive in transitioning from sports and entertainment to business, you know, at a network like CBS, which, you know, obviously, you know, CBS, huge network.
Yeah.
I work with our biggest, you know, sports teams like our NBA teams, etc. I work with our franchise players and things of this nature. And so, you know, one thing that you know I was doing at the time, it really prepared me. It was preparing me for what I'm doing now in the different elements and the structure, but also the chaos. You know, you have so much competition. I mean, it's the results game. It's the results business. So they want to see results nonstop. And I actually endured a situation that took me to another level. As I was growing as a young executive and as I was growing as a young entrepreneur in these different businesses, I was working on the collective bargaining agreements. We kept our NBA team from being purchased and taken over by Microsoft, of all things. You know, and there was a number of social issues. You know, criminal justice reform, law enforcement was having chaos with the people. All these things I was showing serious success in, and my profile was rising nationally. But then I ran into some guys who came into my community and actually tried to kill me. Not
Oh,
just
wow.
me, but they were looking to rob, you know, a few of us, not so much myself, but others in our community that were well off in a gated community. These were just young guys. I mean, and whether they were misguided, misled, whatever was the case, you know, I was in the wrong place, wrong time, and I ended up actually being shot point blank range. You know, by 45s. I mean, it was something serious. And most people, first of all, they said I had to run 400 yards, 2 flights of stairs. I had to stay very calm, you know, not bleed out, things of this nature. And eventually I went to the hospital, and um, my injuries were so severe that it was walking again was never even a discussion. It was never discussed. And I decided, you know, a couple months later that I wasn't going to stay on pills, pain pills, and these are obviously very high level pain pills. They can be very addictive, and they can create like a dependence on these. And I mean, I had no other plan B. I didn't have another plan except for recover. So I got in a swimming pool every day. um, I let my anger, I let my frustrations, and I had studied too. And there was believe it or not, a University of Florida an athlete that had had a similar injury to mine, and he was able to recover and play sports again. So that was encouraging. What was also encouraging is that there was an NFL player that got shot in the same place, only in one spot, with only a 22 in one leg. He was killed immediately. He died. I was hit in both femoral arteries with a higher caliber, and today I walk with no limp. People don't even know that
Fantastic.
I've been shot or went through something like
Yeah.
this, but you know, I didn't allow myself. to become a victim. And what I did from there, and really why I've had so much success, is that I decided that after so long, I'm one part of me said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to let anyone run me out of my city, or let anyone have that kind of power or control. But I saw Vegas as an opportunity, because the best of the best go to Vegas and do anything. And so I was still an athlete, and I was in the business. What I did actually changed my life. I went to Vegas and I went to the best gyms, and I started training with the best fighters in the world, sparring, whooping ass, bleeding, sweating, the whole everyday scenario with these guys. And one thing I never did, I never told them that I had gotten shot or that I was still recovering from a super serious injury. I never made those excuses. So they didn't know. I didn't come in talking about all the stars or all the people that I worked with from before. I didn't talk to them about my resume. I didn't try to convince them on, I'm the king of my city, but I'm out here now. No, I just quietly went to work, and that led me to working with the money team, as you see here.
Yeah.
Floyd and so many others, so many greats. I mean, there's a lot of everyday stars that maybe they don't make it to the pay-per-views, and they don't make it always to the networks, or sometimes they do, but they don't have a long run. But from working with them, as a team, as a strategic partner, what happened is I showed so much promise myself that promoters were ready to put me on the bracket and put me on the big show, the big circuit. And I said, you know what? Let me learn more about the business. And that really was, I mean, I could have tried to go into it myself. I would have never been where I'm at today had I decided to be the poster. Instead, I learned to run the show.
Hmm.
And with understanding that and having the experience I have and the success I've had without having all the support, without having all the tools, without having all the resources and the answers, I just got to work. A lot of these guys, they're not really in the listening business. Like, they don't want to hear all day what you're going to do. They don't want to hear what you think and all this. They're just like, hey, bring me some sponsors, or hey, get me some fights, or show me something. So that was more the scenario, is I just had to show the world what I was really made of. And again, taking those chances, taking those risks. I mean, these guys are lethal, physically. So if you mess up, and we know where each other lives, and they come to my house, and we would go to each other's house, we would spend time with the families, etc. So you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders in those moments. And I mean, I've had nothing but success. I'll continue to have success. I really rose very quickly, and there's a reason why. I didn't have family that put me in the business. I didn't have anyone say, I'm gonna bring you in, and I'm gonna show you the ropes. My commitment and dedication to success and results, and my work ethic, honestly, there's not too many that there's very few that put in the work and are willing. They're not going to outwork me. They're not going to out strategize us. They're not going to outperform us. And at the end of the day, my track record grows by the hour in every essence.
I'm quite taken back by the whole fact that you've been shot and stuff. I wouldn't have, like you said, no one can tell, like, the way you walk, you carry yourself. There doesn't seem to be any sort of um I wouldn't have computed the fact that something's happened to you. You don't come across as someone like that. So that's obviously a massive compliment to yourself for your resolve and your character and strength, mind, body, and soul, all in sync. Off the back of what happened to you there, I wanted to ask you a bit more of a personal question.
Absolutely.
Where do you stand on faith? Are you someone who believes in God? Do you just believe in what do you believe in? Can I ask?
Oh, I have no problem answering this question. I'm definitely a believer. There's only one God, so I don't believe in all these different entities and
Mm,
any like hocus pocus or magic. From my youth to today, I have definitely had the support from something much greater than me. This definitely I have a purpose being here, and I also had a purpose that it was bigger than just, I never cared about being famous, or, I didn't care about being seen, or, I mean, I'm not wealthy yet, but I'm not doing too bad. And even still, I never made it to where it's like money was like the big thing. I always worked very, very hard for everything. Even I was working in the fifth grade. I was a hard worker, and a lot of that comes, the character, keeping your reputation as clean as possible. You're not going to be perfect, but you don't make the excuse of, oh, I'm not perfect. No, I mean, you strive for excellence. And, the highest standard is if you're a true believer. If you're a true believer, you understand that the standard is what it is. It's the highest standard. You don't have days off. You don't have excuses. You don't make mistakes, and it's okay. You have to be the best every day, and you have others to look out for way besides yourself. So that's why it's very simple. If it wasn't for the creator, definitely I wouldn't be here from the beginning. I wouldn't have been able to outlast serious situations. I mean, I don't talk like I'm some kind of thug or gangster, none of this, but um, not too many people could have made it out where I come from, especially the situations I was in. I was a very popular guy, so I was around a lot of different scenarios, and it
mm,
could have been very easy for me to have gotten involved. Not so much just gangs, but just the culture of everything. Doing drugs because it's just other people are doing these things, and I'd hear people say, oh, other people are doing this, or so and so did that. I mean, that wasn't me. And I had a mindset. I was very determined that these people are not going to convince me of nothing, other than being successful. And I might have I definitely made my mistakes. At certain times I definitely didn't have all the patience that I have today, but I still had the building blocks and the fundamentals, the foundation, as being a believer that even when I was at my lowest moments at those times, I was always able to climb to another dimension, and change, get myself, out of all those different distractions and hostilities and toxicity and negative behavior. So definitely I credit my beliefs, and being spiritual, not so much just religious, not just being a person of tradition. Traditions will get you nowhere. It's being disciplined, and it's got to really be in.
100%. I mean, like you said, the reason I asked that question was I always feel like people who go through something like what you've been through, there has to be something more in terms of to get you through. It's not to discredit your own sort of determination and that will and desire to live and move on and be better. But I always feel like there's something watching over you for you to come through that. Having said what you said, where other people have been shot once in the leg and died, you've been shot twice with a bigger, thicker bullet or whatever it was. There has to be something more to people like that. So to me, I would think that God was watching over you and ensured that you made it through that and assisted you. Myself, I come from a Muslim family, so it isn't necessarily that we're so extreme in religion, but we're taught to behave with respect, carry yourself with dignity. It's all about character. I can be
Hmm.
I can be a Muslim who prays, but if I treat people disrespectfully, then my prayers mean nothing. Because it's about how you
Correct.
represent yourself, how you represent your family, and how you come across. Because again, it ties back into mental health and how you can impact someone's day. If I see someone in the street now and that person's on their way to kill themselves, and if I by chance stop, shake their hand, say how are you, speak to them, that could be the difference point that makes them turn around and go home rather than going to jump off a bridge. You don't
Correct.
know how much you can impact someone's life. And in Islam, it says smiling is a form of charity. Smile. Yeah, one smile at
Wow.
someone in the street that can change their day. It can make their day. You don't know. So every one of us has a responsibility to look out for other people. Again, strangers that you don't know. You don't know what you could do or something that you could say or do on a day that can make the day, make the week, change their life. I'd even go as far to say, for example, me and you met very briefly. We met outside the T-Mobile Arena. I've been doing boxing interviews since I was 21. I'm now 30 years old, so I've been doing it on and off for the last 9 years. There's been points where I've been demotivated or felt like I haven't got anything to offer the sport, or
Yeah.
you start thinking, oh, I've been left behind. There's so many people doing it, and I can't keep up, and whatever it is, demotivation, mental again ties back into mental health again and self worth.
Yes.
When I came to Vegas, that was a first time I've ever been to America. And as a boxing fan, I always said if Terence Crawford and Spence gets made, I got to be there for that fight because it's
Yes.
history. So got the money together, got there, and then met so many boxers, met so many people, met yourself. You know, had the greatest experience of my life as a boxing fan. And off the back of that, I then decided to get back into it again because I realized how passionate I am about it and how much it means to me. So again, one decision to go to Vegas, meeting the right people, networking, having conversations, it sort of re-engages that part of your brain and the fire, the passion triggers, and it just boom. A month later, I had a YouTube channel and I'm trying to get interviews left, right, and center, and it's just it's an itch that you can't really explain, and the passion and the love for the sport, which
Yes.
you're obviously a massive boxing fan yourself, so you understand where I'm coming from, so
Of
me
course.
meeting you, for example, now, 2 months later, we're sitting on YouTube talking about this, everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Whatever the
Yeah.
reason is, if me and you only met to have this one conversation, that's fine, but we
Yeah.
met, and that's all a part of impacting each other, impacting lives, however small, however big, we don't know, but you've had an impact on me. I've had some sort of impact on you when we met. But again, it's about how you
Absolutely.
carry yourself, how you behave, because these types of things can be infectious. Enthusiasm, passion, networking, especially in your field of what you're doing. Networking is key. Meeting more people, bringing them in, having their
Yes.
involvement. Especially when, again, fight for mental health is going to be a very much a people's thing. I get that it could be a written form. You can put documents online. That's not engaging. It can be, but
Correct.
these sort of conversations, me and you could have had this conversation over text over 10 days, just going back and forth texting. It's not the same thing. Seeing each other face
No.
to face, conversation, the tone of voice, building that connection is very different. So I think for yourself, fight for mental health, all that stuff is brilliant, and it's going to make a difference, especially in America, where your main focus is, I imagine. And as you get bigger, maybe, who knows, you look to take it, to Canada. Are you working in Canada yet or not?
You know what? Because of our relationship with the World Boxing Council, we are working on global peace, and this is something I'm not scared to speak on. Is I don't like to see when Muslims or even Jews or any religious group is characterized and labeled automatically. I mean,
Mm.
that's it's very easy. They could just say, "Oh, you're a black guy." I don't call myself an African American or a Black American. I'm just an American at the end of the day, and I'm a patriot. That gets involved. But with that being said, it's I have an issue with people being labeled because everyone have their own path or purpose. So we're not just all just some group out there, just some genre or category. And when I see what's going on in the in Gaza, specifically in the West Bank and
Mm.
things of this nature, I mean, you know, it's like if we're told in by whatever side that if we have an issue with seeing innocent lives killed, and I mean, when I'm watching kids walking around without their parents that don't understand all this, when I'm seeing babies being punished behind this, infants, when we're seeing families that had a home that were just working to have a better life, and we're seeing them having to hide in shelters and then the shelter being destroyed. um, it in no way means that I support some terrorist group or I support now that they're giving Hamas this big name. I never even heard of Hamas, to be honest. Most of us probably never even heard of them. So, I have an issue with. I mean, yes, it was a horrible thing that happened, and this affects our boxing community. This
Mm.
affects our world. It affects America. It affects how people look at us as a nation. I don't think we should just openly stand for just one of anybody. I don't think we should just stand for Palestine or just stand for Israel. I think we should stand for world peace, and what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong.
Mm.
And I know, some people, even Floyd came out and immediately, made his support clear, and other people. I think it's important to, before you just speak so quickly, gather and learn the facts, and then take the emotion out. You
Mm.
know, I feel like today it's like people can't just have in America. I don't know how it is everywhere abroad, so I don't want to speak on everywhere. But as far as the environment here, there's definitely people that are letting it be known that they don't support Hamas. I have not seen anybody. I mean, clearly, I'm not at all the protests and things of this nature. That's not what I use my time for. But I have not seen someone saying, I'm glad that Hamas did this
Yeah,
to
yeah.
someone's kid or family. Like, this to me is like outrageous talk. So I wouldn't even entertain that myself. Like, I wouldn't get on the phone with someone talking like this, or I wouldn't condone that in no way, and violence is just violence. I mean, we're in a violent sport,
Mm.
but we're not seeing, like, people's families is off limits in our business and in most business. So when you see people's families or their kids being involved in this conflict of this nature, see, this is a different conversation, and it's something that we shouldn't be so divided on this. Like, if we see that someone's being hurt, it doesn't matter what you think about the political situation or their religious choice. It should be none of these things. It should be that it's a problem. It should bother us. And so, my view is very clear. I do not stand with Hamas. Um, oh, sorry, 1 second. I think
No, it's fine. It's fine.
someone's trying to call me. I'm making sure they don't. Okay, but anyway, in no way do I stand with Hamas at all, and I don't even feel the need to have to explain this.
Mm.
And then at the end of the day, I do not support watching innocent people killed on a daily basis to fight a small militant group. I mean, I'm seeing chemical warfare, power being shut off, supplies not being received, for serious injuries, and people aren't getting food and water and just basic shelter and things of this nature. Like, forget who in America or who in any country wants to go live at a shelter. Let's just be honest. So if this is just a normal way of life, then I should see people right now just giving up their house, giving up their cars, giving up their way of life, just go live at a shelter, and then let that get bombed while you're there. I mean, no one would be okay with this. So that's why, for myself, I have a problem with it continuing. Whatever's going on with those governments shouldn't involve the people. And that's on any side. It's not about all this side business. Right now, the world is not big enough for all this killing. We don't need all this death and destruction. And so I see this as weighing on the mental health of the world. And I am definitely concerned about the stance that people have taken. I'm concerned with the fact that people just can't have a reasonable conversation about this, where if you have a heart, like, I mean, it really burns me up when I see those kids. When I saw the whole thing from beginning to end, when I saw those people getting destroyed and wiped out like that, yeah, that was a big problem and it bothered me. And then when I see, just innocent kids, I just seeing it all. Like when I'm seeing dads, I'm a dad. So when I
Mm.
see dads holding their kids that are dead, when I saw them holding their kids and all they could put them in was like a wrapped up sheet because that's all they had. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, why we cannot continue this behavior and
Mm.
call ourselves democracies and show other worlds and nations that
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
the better way, the better path of government or everyday lifestyle. So, you know, I'm definitely getting involved on the legislation also on these kind of things because I do not want to see this continue. I'm not okay with watching the clips that I'm seeing. I'm not okay with people celebrating death. I'm not okay with people being kicked out of their homeland. I'm just not okay with it. So this has nothing to do with hating anybody. I don't hate nobody, and this is not even how I operate. But
Mm.
whether you're a believer, whether you're a patriot of our country, whether you're a family person, whether you have any kind of heart, I mean, this should be a problem for us all. And I look forward to you utilizing boxing. So to wrap up, where boxing is going next for me, I'm utilizing boxing in our sport more and more as a diplomatic weapon against mental illness, against hunger, against the war hawks, that are excited about war because they profit off of this.
Mm.
People that are they're not vessels of peace. They're instruments of chaos. We're using boxing to highlight a better way of living, a better culture, a better world, and most importantly, world peace.
I want to say a big thank you for that, Egypt, because it takes a lot of courage to speak out and say things like that. A lot of people will not say it on camera; they'd rather say it off camera and have these conversations, or that they will pick a side just to appease certain people higher up or more powerful and things like that. I appreciate what you said was you're not trying to pick a side. You're talking about human life being precious, and as human beings, we need to have that at the forefront. That peace is required for everyone. Um, you know, wrong is wrong, right is right, and that is it. Again,
Correct.
I'm a a Muslim, whatever I am. I'm a from my family are from Pakistan. My granddad, my great granddad, and everyone. So, but I'm born and raised in Britain. My mom's born and raised in Britain. So we have a very difficult. Uh, it's hard to explain it. We have a difficult way of looking at things because part of it is we feel for these people because we know that that could have been us, or we have so much in
Yeah,
common with people from that part of the world because that's where we come from. But at the same time, we're born and raised here, so we have to also sort of not react too much because if you react too much, you're called a terrorist sympathizer or this. Like you said, you get labeled. It's like what I wouldn't hurt a fly. I'm born and raised here. I believe in peace.
yeah,
Our religion says peace, love, respect, and that's what we aim to do every day. And we've never shown anything negative or dangerous about us yet. You show one bit of sympathy for a certain part of the world, and automatically, oh, you're a terrorist. You know what I mean?
that's
It's that
crazy. Yeah,
media, the
yeah,
media
yeah,
spin,
yeah.
and because I'm brown, I've got a beard. Oh, oh, he might be a terrorist. Silly. When I came to Vegas, I got stopped at the airport, and they took me into a room and questioned me. I've never been to America. I got pulled. Yeah, yeah. Thankfully,
Wow.
it wasn't extreme. Thankfully, I got very lucky. I got very lucky, but I've heard stories where they keep you for 5 or 6 hours and interrogate you. Mine was done within 15 minutes. But he said to me, the guy said to me, he said, "You carried yourself well. You weren't arrogant. You came with me smiling. You answered all my questions nicely. You didn't give me any attitude. So I'm happy to say I don't find you suspicious and go enjoy the boxing match." And that was it. But some people can get a bit annoyed when they get pulled after. If you've had an 11-hour flight from London, that's a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
But luckily, a lot of people told me just have a smile on your face, be respectful, which I would have done that anyway. But they were saying, just be careful. So I was like worried. They pulled me, had the conversation. But it's interesting how they were waiting for me. They had my name on a sheet and they said, "Oh, are you so and so?" I said, "Yeah." So they were waiting for me. They knew I was coming off the flight. They were waiting for me and took me into a room. So that sort of stuff, unfortunately, exists. this profiling and
Yeah,
stereotyping.
I don't like that at all. You know,
Yeah.
and I have heard of some of these things. I mean, Muhammad Ali's son, he's
Mm,
the son of a boxing icon. Had something like this happen to him, and
yeah.
I actually was just with Muhammad Ali's wife not too long ago, and you know, you hear these things. It could be very similar where they try to create these labels. Oh, you have a tan. I just tell people relax. It's just a tan, but the tan makes me so violent and I'm a thug or I'm
Yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
gangster. So these are things that, they exist. Um, I've learned, there was a time where I would have been a little more, in outrage, but more like frustrated and I just didn't tolerate it from day one. But there's also a way that, and you just nailed it on the head, is like perception is key. So it's like if I walk around and I'm mean mugging everybody, if I'm walking around and I'm dressed like, you know, a rapper, or I got grill in my mouth and, I'm sagging or whatever, I may not be the things that they're saying, but I'm looking the part. I'm
Yeah.
talking the part. And so I control that part. That's the part I can control. And so, even like you mentioned, when I go to airports, you're traveling, you're going to different places, I've come across law enforcement, things of this nature. I thank them for their service.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, I used to run from law enforcement. Now they run with me. you know
Yeah.
i, I
Yeah.
learned, you can play the game
Yes.
called life, and you can play it very well, or you can cry about losing. You can complain about the way things are and lose out on a lot of opportunities. So I really appreciate the mindset that you have. I mean, we're proving even in these kind of interactions that, we are not the label, we are not to be labeled. But by us moving the needle and having success and also contributing to each other's success, in an uncompromised way with in integrity and character and understanding. Well, now we're opening the doors for others in the future. So I really appreciate you having me today. I was honored to do the interview. I'll be honored to come back at another time, and I'll send some fighters your way. I'll send some people your way as well.
Brilliant.
You have
Thank
my
you,
word.
Egypt. I was going to say, I know you've got obviously a few Zoom calls and stuff going on tonight. So we've been on for an hour. So I appreciate your time. And I feel like I learned a lot from this call just about what you're doing. So I commend you for what you're doing. And obviously, my prayers and everything are with you. And I hope you can make it a success. And like you said, I'm more than happy to have you on whenever you want to come on. We can come on and kick it, because I think we'll always be able to learn something from each other from these conversations. And it was an absolute pleasure, like I said, bro. So I'd love to have you on again, man. And best of luck with everything moving forward as well.
Absolutely. I'm happy to come back. Happy to
Thank you,
be
brother.
back.
Thank you so much.
Easy work.
Thank you.